Welcome to my YouTube channel Basketball Official. The digital clock on the scoreboard, a stark red against the deep black of the Indianapolis night visible through the rafters of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, bled from 23:59 to midnight. It was September 14th, 2025. The regular season, a grueling 40-game marathon of cross-country flights, nagging injuries, and relentless pressure, had concluded just 7 days prior. For the 8 teams that had survived and advanced, this was no longer the regular season. This was the single elimination, win-or-go-home crucible of the WNBA Playoffs. Every possession was a heart palpitation, every shot a potential narrative shift, every defensive stop a matter of survival. The air in the arena, thick with the scent of popcorn, sweat, and anticipation, was not just filled with noise, but with a tangible, electric current of consequence. On one side stood the Indiana Fever, a team whose trajectory had been fundamentally altered by the arrival of a generational talent, Caitlin Clark. Her rookie season in 2024 had been a revelation, a whirlwind of record-breaking three-pointers and audacious passes that had reinvigorated a franchise and its fan base. Now, in her second year, the narrative had matured from promising newcomer to MVP candidate leading a championship charge. Alongside her, the steady, dominant presence of Aaliyah Boston provided a perfect symbiotic partnership, the gravitational force inside opening the cosmos beyond the arc, and the cosmic thread outside creating galaxies of space in the paint. They were the new standard-bearers of a league, playing a brand of basketball that was both analytically beautiful and viscerally thrilling. Their opponents, the Atlanta Dream, were the antithesis of Cinderella. They were a team forged in the fires of defensive discipline and relentless physicality. They did not have a singular, shining superstar to rival Clark's luminosity, but rather a constellation of tough, versatile, and fiercely competitive players like Rhyne Howard, an all-world two-way force, and Cheyenne Parker-Tyus, a bastion of interior strength. They were the disruptors, the team that prided itself on muddying the waters, on turning beautiful games into gritty, ugly street fights. They were not in Indianapolis to be spectators to the Caitlin Clark show. They were there to tear down the curtain. As the teams finished their final warm-up routines, the rhythmic, almost meditative pounding of basketballs on hardwood ceasing, the arena plunged into a moment of anticipatory silence before the starting lineups were announced. The roar for the Fever, particularly for Clark and Boston, was deafening, a wall of sound that seemed to physically press down onto the court. The Dream received a more measured, respectful acknowledgement. The crowd understood the threat, the spoiler lurking in the shadows. The officials gathered at center court, the bright orange WNBA game ball held aloft. Aaliyah Boston and Cheyenne Parker-Tyus squared off, knees bent, eyes locked on the referee's hand. The toss was clean, the jump true, and Boston's fingertips grazed the ball first, tapping it back to Caitlin Clark. The 2025 WNBA Playoffs were officially underway. The Fever's first possession was a masterpiece of their offensive philosophy. Clark, operating with a calm that belied the playoff stakes, brought the ball up against the tight, chest-to-chest defense of Atlanta's Ari McDonald. She didn't force the action. Instead, she initiated a simple high pick-and-roll with Boston. As Boston's screen momentarily impeded McDonald, Clark turned the corner, her eyes scanning the floor like a predator assessing the savannah. Parker-Tyus, wary of Clark's lethal floater, took a half step up from the paint. That was all the invitation Boston needed. She rolled hard to the rim, received a crisp, no-look bounce pass from Clark that seemed to defy the geometry of the passing lane, and in one fluid motion, gathered and finished with a powerful layup through the faint, desperate contest from a helping defender. It was a statement. 2 points inside from their all-star center. A reminder that for all the three-point pyrotechnics, the Fever's engine was this two-woman symphony. Atlanta's response was characteristic of their identity. There was no panic, no sense of awe. They marched down the floor with a methodical purpose. Rhyne Howard, the Dream's talisman, received the ball on the left wing, guarded by the Fever's tenacious Kelsey Mitchell. Howard took 2 deliberate dribbles, used her body to create a sliver of space, and rose up for a contested mid-range jumper. Swish. The net barely moved. It was a difficult shot, the kind analytics departments frown upon, but in the hands of a superstar in a playoff setting, it was a cold-blooded retort. The message was clear. We are not intimidated, we will make tough shots. The first quarter settled into a fascinating, high-level chess match. The Fever, as they often did, looked to push the tempo at every opportunity. A defensive rebound from Boston was an immediate trigger for Clark to sprint up court, her head on a swivel, searching for an advantage before Atlanta's formidable half-court defense could set its teeth. She found Mitchell for a trailing three-pointer on one such break, a play that brought the crowd to its feet. But the Dream were masterful in mitigating this. Their guards, McDonald and Haley Jones, were disciplined in their floor balance, often sacrificing offensive rebounding opportunities to get back and build a defensive wall. When forced into the half-court, Indiana's offense relied heavily on the Clark-Boston two-man game, with shooters like Mitchell and Nalissa Smith spacing the floor. Atlanta, meanwhile, was content to grind. Their offense was less about elegant set pieces and more about creating mismatches through a series of hard cuts, dribble handoffs, and relentless offensive rebounding. They attacked the glass with a ferocity that seemed to surprise Indiana early on. Alisha Gray, the Dream's Swiss Army knife, sneaked in for 2 offensive boards in the first 5 minutes, leading to second-chance points that kept the Fever from building any early momentum. The physicality was pronounced. Screens were set with bone-jarring solidity. Drives to the basket were met with hard, clean fouls that sent players tumbling to the floor. This was the game Atlanta wanted, a low-possession, physical war of attrition where every point had to be earned with sweat and pain. With just over 3 minutes left in the opening period, the Fever held a narrow 18-16 lead. Clark, navigating a double team near the top of the key, fired a cross-court pass to a wide-open Smith in the corner. Smith, a reliable shooter, caught and fired, but the shot was just long, clanging off the back iron. The long rebound was snatched by Howard, who immediately turned and became a one-woman fast break. With long, graceful strides, she weaved through the retreating Fever defenders, Euro-stepped around a recovering Boston, and finished with a graceful, left-handed layup high off the glass. Tie game, 18-18. The Dream's bench erupted, their defensive stop and transition score emblematic of their game plan. The Fever closed the quarter with a small flurry. Clark, recognizing the Dream's heightened attention on her, went into playmaker mode. She drew 2 defenders on a drive and kicked out to a relocating Mitchell for a 3. On next possession, she executed a perfect pick and pop with Smith, hitting her for a mid-range jumper. But Atlanta had the final say of the